Dungeons and Dragons is a tabletop RPG that's been around for generations. It's a super fun game where you can make a story pretty much out of thin air and play for hours. When you play a session of D&D, you have one person that would be the dungeon master, and they determine all the basic story elements such as the plot and where you go and the quests and such. And on the other side, you have the other players, which are characters in the story. But if you've never played before, you wouldn't know what kind of character to play or what kind of character to start out as. I've played for a very long time, and I think I have a good general idea of what you could play as and some good information on them. A good class to start out as would very much be a barbarian. Barbarians provide a lot of good strengths and provide an easier time for those players that don't really want to get into spellcasting because it is honestly kind of complicated sometimes. And it provides a simple learning curve for fresh new players, or you could just make one on the fly. Starting out, you would have to pick a race. A race is what your character looks like, and they provide stat bonuses or certain skills that other races don't have. A barbarian can provide pretty good coverage for all kinds of races, so it doesn't really matter what you pick in terms of race. A good race I would personally pick would probably be a half-orc or something of the sort that has a lot of strength invested into them. Another part of picking a character or making a character is your stat points. You have 6 main slots to put your stats in. You have strength, wisdom, intelligence, charisma, constitution, and dexterity. The 2 main points I would be investing in would probably be strength and constitution. Strength would pretty much determine how strong you are, how much damage you do in combat, and constitution, keeps you from getting knocked out by somebody or makes you wake up faster if you're knocked out, because you're inevitably going to get knocked out because you're going in and rushing in and trying to kill stuff without your party members. That goes into the other part, is the combat. Barbarians are very good at close-up range combat, and they are very good with single-handed or double-handed weapons such as big sticks or axes, hammers, anything big and giant, strong, heavy kind of weapons. They do a lot of damage with their strength stats. If you don't want to do combat most of the time, you can bump a few points into charisma and intimidate everybody that you don't want to fight, to keep yourself from having to fight all the time. Because a big buff guy or woman that has a giant stick on their back, I wouldn't want to mess with them, I think intimidation is key when you're playing a barbarian just as much as constitution or strength is. And you don't always have to hurl a big stick around or anything like that in D&D in their combat. You can get creative. If you have a dwarf party member, you can either consensually or not consensually throw them at somebody else if they're light enough, and that does damage to both of them. D&D is pretty much a wild card in what you can do and whatever you want to do. And after all the combat is done and your quest is pretty much over, your dungeon master may want you to level up your character for a later quest or a tougher quest. This gives you a boost to your stats and improvements to your skills and such, and basically it's just overall a good thing to have when you get done with the quest. Leveling up can be very simple for a barbarian, as it just adds more attacks or improves their skills, their basic skills, like a rage, extra turns to hit, extra health, extra damage, stuff like that. In conclusion, a barbarian has very good solid points when you play D&D. You're good in combat, making a character in general, puzzle solving, and you can pretty much do whatever you want with it because the sky and the rule book is your limit when you have a good enough creative mind.